As a sport, Formula One is ever evolving, just as tyres change mid-race as do regulations. As eras of dominance crumble, another is set to rise. Some changes, however, are far more foundation shaking, triggering a chain reaction to ignite a silly season, or post-season changes that change up the outlook on the following season well before a single pre-season test lap has been run. After so long in the sport, some people decide it's time to take a step back and make room for a new shoot to grow, whereas some are forced out far more violently. The question is, for one team principal today, which will it be? Bowing out peacefully, or an ousting due to underperforming the expectations set by themselves? Want to know why it may be time for a huge shakeup at Mercedes? It could be all the way at the top, so just what would that mean for the sport? And stick around, because the seeds of change may have been sown long ago, with it coming to light just how decisions made years ago may have set these changes into action. This season has seen great rifts developing, perhaps none more scrutinized and apparent than the one at Mercedes, with just about everyone having an opinion on just how deep the division goes. This gap seems not to have been sutured, with the rift extending all the way into the postseason, with the drivers being far more split than ever on their outlook to next year. Russell has maintained a puppy-like optimism going into the off-season, with him alluding that the team have far more potential to challenge Red Bull next season, saying, "I think we're taking a clean slate into next year's car. I think that the positive is that we're not scratching our heads as to why we're so behind Red Bull. We see so many flaws with this car, which gives every single person back at the factory so much motivation and fire to chase after those problems and find those solutions, which we think we will make a good step into next year. But of course, I expect Red Bull to make a step again, but I've got no doubt, come Bahrain, we'll be in a stronger position than we were in Bahrain this year." So a typically measured outlook from George, with a plucky optimism and bright-eyed look to overcoming their challenges and taking a hold of their future. Hamilton, on the other hand, completes the buddy cop stereotype of the plucky rookie with the grizzled veteran. He may as well have had a 7 o'clock shadow going on and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth as he said, "It's like if you're trying to build a wall, it was one brick after another, brick, 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 just development, development, development. Maybe they added something and it didn't add to the performance, but they were still building. For us, we had to knock down the wall. We had a lot of aero on that car last year, but we had to basically knock a ton of downforce off of it and slowly tried to add it. But every time we tried to add it, it was worse. We just didn't improve for a long time." So then, where does Hamilton see the team being next year? Is it worth being excited about it, or is it a case of just happy to be out of the W14? "So you can imagine Red Bull are progressing, and we're going like this," he said, indicating a flat line. "Then eventually it's slowly coming up while they're continuing. The gap, we are just massively on different trajectories, but I think we understand the car so much better now. We have developed great tools in the background, so naturally I'm hopeful, but I'm not going to hold my breath." When a team looks as divided as this on the surface, you need to look at the top down to figure out just how they're going to bring the team onto a shared plane to move forward on. At the moment, it seems like there is a change coming on the horizon. As they say, without a struggle, there is no progress. And it's safe to say that Mercedes have had their fair share of struggles in the past couple of seasons, and the team has gone through a major change, or rather reset on previous personnel, which prompted at least some positive movement at the back end of the season. However, with many key personnel departing the team in recent years, they may need more change to get the results that they are so desperately looking for. Toto Wolff recognizes this, lamenting on the past successes and the changes that have happened along the way, while also showing a clear understanding that he may have to break the team he loves in order to build it back as strong as it was before, saying, "There is no sports team that has won 8 consecutive world titles, and for me, it's been a psychological journey, because you have a great group of people on this mission together, and you grow and you develop, but at the end, are you the same person that you were at the beginning of 2013? Maybe not, but maybe you're wiser, maybe you have more experience. And I think getting that balance right for us, that's really a difficult task, and we're going to come back, that's for sure. It's just maybe rejuvenating and recreating the successful organization." With Wolff holding such a realistic outlook on the future of the team, it's only right to assume that if all else fails in the next couple of seasons and the team either drops further or stagnates further into mediocrity, then Wolff will turn the focus on his own position. As extreme as this sounds, Wolff may well be ready at the turn of the new regulation cycle to make like Master Oogway and fade into the distance, as he has been putting plans in place for years behind the scenes, with insider moves, part-time replacements, and a gradual shift in power. We're of course talking about James Vowles, who had an effervescent first season in charge at Williams, making them a considerable force showing great potential to break through from the back markers into the midfield. The important thing to consider with James is just how he got his position at Williams, from strategy director at Mercedes to team principal. Well, the first hint of James stepping up was at the Japanese and Brazilian Grand Prix back in 2022, where he stepped up to replace Toto, who was absent at the time. This was the first opportunity that Vowles had in order to break through the glass ceiling imposed above him by the fact that Wolff held both the top position as CEO and team principal. This led to the only victory that Mercedes would experience that season, so safe to say, Vowles made the most of that opportunity. It was later revealed in an interview on the Beyond the Grid podcast just how Vowles got the job at Williams, with the Wolff seemingly having prior knowledge of the move before the call, with James saying, "Toto said, I knew you were calling me about that at the time. So he was having dinner with Susie and I could hear her in the background whooping. So it didn't matter how he wanted to play it down, it didn't matter. I had Susie's backing, so I was good to go. He was happy for me. He knows that I've been alongside him, really doing everything I could to support him and learn from him and every opportunity he provided. Another opportunity wouldn't for the time being at Mercedes. He could see that I had really reached a glass ceiling, reached a wall that I couldn't break through, but had the capability to do this elsewhere, and he was completely in support." Now to us, with his prior stake at Williams, as well as clear continued influence of the team still existing with Mercedes power units and being used as a feeder team for the Brackley outfit, this looks like Wolff getting the best possible outcome, a future replacement. It's all fine and well having a right-hand man, but being able to convert that into a future replacement who has experience at the team, respect from those in it, and now a few years experience of the role with far less pressure and scrutiny is a rare opportunity, and one that both Wolff seem to be happy to take. If you'll excuse the football analogy for a moment, the same excitement that is being leveled at Xabi Alonso for his success at Bayer Leverkusen, having learned under some of the greatest managers of all time at some of the greatest clubs to exist, that same excitement should be leveled at James Vowles for his potential to be the rejuvenation that is needed at the Mercedes team. But then, what for Wolff? Well, we don't think he'd remove himself from the situation entirely. The team is his child, an entity he's spilt love, sweat and tears into, more of the latter recently it has to be said. We think he'd revert to more of a Niki Lauda role, stepping back into his CEO role to maintain control of aspects of the team while removing himself directly from the firing line of the trackside operations. There's one of two ways that this outcome will happen, and they're exactly what we said at the start of the video. Either Wolff will stand aside if he doesn't have a decent mantle on things by the new regulations, or his soapbox will be usurped by an impatient board demanding the return of the prodigal son. In any case, we don't think the Wolff is done quite yet, and besides, Vowles could still do with a few more years to gain some more polish and stake his claim even further as to why he should be the next Mercedes man to take the team into the future.